Hello everyone, welcome back again. My name is Jesse, and in this exciting part of the course, we'll be trying to explore some essential tools of a developer. So in this session, we'll be picking Makefile, right? So the previous essential tools we know of is a text editor or and an IDE, right? Which is two different things. We have a terminal, which can be Bash, Z Shell, Commander, PowerShell. Then we have our Markdown. Then you also need to master version control like Git or SVC. You also need to master SQL, which is very important. How to work with your browser to search for information, which is a portal to serve the internet, and then search engines and then search platforms like Stack Overflow and GitHub. So these are some of the essential tools which are very, very important, irrespective of the language that you are working with. So let's start with Makefile. So Makefile is a build tool which is very useful to help you build your systems, build and compile your programs, as well as also to automate tasks, right? So we use Make to be able to do that, and it depends on the Makefile. Just like we have Docker file or Fabric file or Fab file. We also need a Makefile to be able to work with Make to build our tools, our programs, and also to automate our tasks. So let's see an example. I'm going to save here. So we have my workspace here. I'm going to create, as you can see, there is only our README, and I want to create a Makefile, right? So the same place, and the name must be Makefile without extension, and it's automatically going to be selected by IDE. Then let's start with the basics, right? So the first easiest stuff when working with Makefile is this. It goes with a target, which is mostly like the function that you want to call. Then we have a prerequisite, which mostly are the dependencies. And then you give a tab, not a space, but a tab. Then the recipe. So the recipe is the actual command you're going to run to reach this particular target, right? So the target is the name you're going to call. Then when you call that target, it's going to perform this particular command, right? That is a basic understanding. So let's start with it. So I'm just going to go back again to our workspace, and we'll go with our target, right? And then tap. Then you specify the command you want to run. So let's give a command like, let's say echo. Then I just go with hello developer, right? So if I save it, and in case I want to run, so this here is a target, and this is the command I want to run, right? So I can change this name to something else, but let's keep it as target. And how do you run it? So to run it, I can just go to my terminal, which is down here, and then we're going to run it here. So to run it is going to be ls. You can see that we have my Makefile here, and I go with Make, and then if I run Make straight away, it's going to echo hello developer and then hello developer, right? Twice. So just running Make is going to execute this particular command there. But we can also run it in a different way by going with Make Target, which is the name of this target is target, and it's also going to run the same thing. Perfect. So in case you don't want to echo it twice, you just have to use the @ right? And now it's only going to echo this one without printing the command that is executed. So if I run it again, so that only the hello developer was executed. Only this command was executed without the actual command being executed. But let's make it better. We don't want to call it target, we want to give it a different name. So I can give it a name like, let's say something like build, right? And then we also want to also install some stuff, and you can just give a simple echo. So echo installing a package, right? And then we also want to, mostly we build, we test, so which we can also give echo, or we can just run an actual command. So pytest, let's give the version of pytest. The reason I'm putting the @ here is that I can go without the @, but let's leave it like that. So we have build test, or let's go with install first before we build. install, build, and then we can also add another one, like let's say in case we want to format something. So we want to format our code, we can use black, and then let's keep the black version. Perfect, right? So let me show you how to run this. If I go back here and I want to run it, if I go with make, the first command is what is going to be executed. The first target is what is going to be executed. So the whole thing here, this entire stuff, the target, the recipe, and the per-execute is called a rule. So if you run make, is going to run the first rule, right? The first target, right? In case you don't want to, you want to be specific, then you can just go, let's say make install, then only the first one is going to be run, make build. So this second argument here is the target, right? Hello developer. If you go with make test, so now it's actually executing PyTest. If I go with make format, now it's going to execute black, right? And as you could see, if you omit the @ sign, the command is also shown here. So this is the command that was run, and you can see it here. So in case you don't want to bring the command that you are executing, you can put @ here, right? Mostly if it is a CLR that can be run in the shell. So if I go back and I run it now, as like unlike the previous one, which was this, let's run it so that you see the difference. And then you're going to add the @ sign. If I run it, you can see the difference, right? So we save this. So the first one without the @ sign will execute the command that was there. It will print out the command that was being run as well as executing the command itself. If you bring the @ sign or the macro sign or the decorator sign, anyhow you call it, it only executes, right, without specifying the command there. Perfect. So that is how to work on it. But what if you want to run all of them together? You don't want to run one at a time. Then that is where we use a phony target called all. So all, right? You don't give any command, just the target. Then I can just go with, I want to run my build. I also want to run the test, and I want to run the format, right? So you don't put this thing, just go with this. So build, test, format. And now if I go with make, it's going to run all of them, right? So the first one, hello developer, which is the build, then the PyTest was run, and then the black was run, right? So it's going to go according to the order, right? So build, test, format, or you can make it build. It can be we format it first, we build, and then we test. If I change the order, you are going to see the order change. Now black was done first, then hello, which is a build, and then the test, right? Very simple. That is the basic understanding. So with make, you can automate your task as well as actually do actual work, right? Okay, so let's see how to use variables in make. So this is going to be using variables. How do you use a variable, right? So we can use a variable by just defining a variable. So let's say I want to use a variable called package name, right? And then I'll just go with the operator. You can make it like this, it's going to work, but I prefer this option here. Then I can give it a name. So let's give it a name like, let's say pandas, right? Without this, it's still going to work. So pandas, right? Or I can just put it inside a bracket like this, right? So this is how to define a variable in the Makefile. Then in case I want to use it, I can just use it like the normal way in which I use. So let's say I want to install the package. So it's a package called package, and I want to install that package. So let's call it as app, right? And I can just say echo installing the package. So I can just use this option, two options. I can put it inside this here. Then the name, which is pkg, right? Package name. So it's going to first installing the package, then installed this. So let's call this installed. So I see the difference. And if I save it and I come back to where I have, so make install. So now installing a package called pandas, right? So it's going to substitute what you have there. That is how to use a variable, right? You can use this option. You can also use another option here, which is here, based on the syntax. So let's run it. So you can either use this option or you can use this option. Any of them is going to work. So that is how to use a variable, to define a variable and use it within your Makefile. Let's move on from there and see another application of this. We can also give a particular condition, right? So this is how to define a variable, and then we can also give conditions. So conditions, how do you use conditions? Conditions, right? So we can just use a simple condition by going with this. So let's say host OS, right? And then I'm going to set it as empty. Then I'm going to start if equal to. So there's if equal to, if not equal to, and the rest, right? So if equal to stuff. So I want to get the operating system. You can get the operating system of your system by going with uname, and this gives it as Linux. If you're on Windows, the command is OS, right, to get the operating system. But we are on Linux, and then on Unix-based system, just go with uname. So I can go back to my Markdown here, my Makefile. Then I can also specify that, okay, if it is Windows system, if the OS is Windows, so Windows NT, right, I want you to do something. So make the host name be equal to Windows, right? We are using condition. Else we will just move on to uname. You can just create a new variable, and then this new variable is going to be this option here. So what we are doing is that we are going to pick shell, then I'm going to get the uname s. So as I said, uname will give you the version. You can also do uname s. You still get the same thing, right? So that is what we are trying to do here. Shell, execute this particular command, and then the variable, the result is going to be stored inside this uname s. And then I'm going to say that, okay, now if that's the case, I want to say that, okay, if this one, if the result that you have gotten, this variable you have gotten, so this is a new variable, uname s is Windows, right? So this, the first one is the function, and this is the result they are comparing against. So if it is Linux, as we saw here, I want you to set the host to be equal to Linux. Oh, we can make it bigger. So let's say Linux. So let's see the difference. 1. So don't forget the tab. Else. Perfect. We can now end. So end if. There's also end if. Then we also run the same thing here for Macintosh. So if it is not Linux and it is Darwin, because that is Macintosh, you set this one to OSS, right? Then you just end it here. So this is a very simple way of trying to use Makefile, right? The condition. Let me bring this one down. Yeah. So we are setting a condition. So if it is this, set it as this. Else, if it is Linux, use this. If it is Macintosh, use this. Then we can end the entire stuff with an end if. So this is how to specify a condition there. And because our system is Linux, it's going to specify it as Linux here, right? So let's try it out. I want to build hello developer. So we can just go to, okay, building for, then you can specify the host name. So host OS. So we're building for host OS. So if I go back again to what we did, which is here, clear off, down make, then build, because it's Linux, so missing operator. So let's see why it's giving us that error. So the reason it's giving us this operator is that missing operator at 7, right, is that this is not a function, it's a inbuilt conditional, right? So you have to separate it from this. This is the condition, you have to separate it, right? Okay, now you see that the syntax is well. So if I go back and I run it, so let's save it because we did not save it. And now building for Linux, right? So it's able to pick up the right one. I can change this one to small case, it's still going to work. That is the basic understanding, right? So this is how to use conditionals. You have seen how to define a variable and use it. You have seen how to use conditionals with your build inside your Makefile. Now let's see some other stuff. So what if you want to also not just say, you want to say, let's say make, let's say install, then I want to give a package name here. Let's say I want to install pandas. I don't want to be defining the package here. I want to do something like this. How do I do that? So we can just go back again and then we can also work on that. So I can just create another function. Let's call it as run, which is another target, and tab. Let's echo it. Echo, we can say running and installing, let's say the package, right? So in case I want to do this option here, I can go straight away and then put the argument there. So bracket, and let's call it as a pkg, something like that. Now in case I want to run this run, all I have to do is just go back again to make run, right? And I'll just go with pkg is equal to, so we can say example, or we can call it as, let's say, numpy, right? If I run it, you see that installing numpy, so it picks the argument. So there's another way you can add argument as variables in Make, right? You just put it here and then you make sure that you call the name here, right? That is very, very useful. So you have seen how to work with Makefile. Let's see one more thing we can also do with Makefile. We want to add help, because by default, if you go to this and go with make, it runs what you specified here, which is useful. There's a phony target. But in case you want to show a help message, there are two ways. You have to have bash tab completion to give the result. But if you don't have it, if I go with make help, it doesn't work, right? It doesn't give me the help. So how do you fix it? So the simplest way is just go with this option. You can just go with create another target. So this is adding help message for commands, right? So if you want to get, if you go with make that help is different from what I want. So this is going to give you how to run it. This is coming from make itself, but I want to show the commands here. So I can just come back again and then let's create it. So help, and then I can just go with echo. If you want, you list all the stuff to format, then blah blah blah. That's another way you can do that. Let's say format code, and then do the same thing for the rest. This is one method. So then you can say this is going to be run. This is one of the ways you can also do it. So run. Let's put the @ sign for both of them. So this is one way. So if I go back here and I go with make help, now you see that we have this. So this is one way you can add your help message. This is useful if you have very little code, right? But if it's not little code, you don't need to do this, right? This is not the best option. So the next option is just go with this option here. So let me go with this and let me show you another way. So the next option is just go with this option here, which is what I'm going to paste. So what it's doing is that it's going to use egrep to grep all the tags that we have, right? And then it's going to sort them. So it's going to pick any target, you see that the target has some words and then this particular column, right? And then it must follow with some stuff there, something like this, right? To give the help description. If I go with this, so instead of putting the add argument, you can just put a show, let's say run program, something like this. If I save it, because of this format, right, it's going to only show this and this because the rest don't have these information. And it's useful to have at least a simple help information on what this command does if you are going to be bringing help. So if I go with make help, so that only the run and the help were shown because of the format of this, right? It must have this option followed by some words and then the hashtag, right? So that is why. So in case I want to bring the rest, I have to make sure that they are the same. So do the same thing here and then the same thing here. So this is going to be test program and this is going to be format code, something like that. So if I save it and I come back and I run it here, so now we have it in this nice format, right? That is how to add the help. So you have seen two methods, using the echo or using this approach. This is very useful, but you have to make sure that you give this option, otherwise it's going to fail, or you change this. That is how to use and work with Makefile. Now let's do another important stuff that we can also do. So I want to compile this readme that we have into RST. So I'm going to install a package called pip. So let's try it out. So I'll come down here, we have install the package name. Let's say I want to do it in this option here. So here I'm going to change this name to something else. So let's go to M2R, so markdown to RST, and I'm going to change it with this option here, and we want to install with pip with Python. So pip install and the package name, right? And let's go back and write it again. So if I go back to help, we don't see it, but if I add this here, now this is install the package. You want to specify the package you want to install, so help, so I install the package, then I can now install. So now it is installing it. So this is a very useful function, right? You can use make to automate your tasks. So it has installed M2R, right? So install M2R, this is what was installed, and this is installing. So installing the package, install, the name of the actually does the package execution, and then it tells you that that's installed it. Now let's create another function down here to copy this, and then we duplicate it. We want to convert it to RST, so let's go to RST. So this is convert markdown, right, to, let's say, RST. So make RST, I'll just go with, instead of this option here, I'm going to be running the actual command, which is M2R. Then this M2R picks the name of the file that we want to run. So in our case, it's going to be a file name. So let's give it as my file name. Right. So because we are giving this file name, we are going to run it in this way. So let me save it, and then let's go with this. So help. So convert markdown to RST. So we will specify this markdown. We want to convert to RST. I'll go down here and then RST, then file name. I'll give it as readme. So readme.md, which is the same one we have here. So let's see it's compiling. So now that's compiled it perfectly, and now we have our RST. So it is very useful. You can use this one to do a lot of things. If you have some CLIs that do some tasks, you can put inside a Markdown to make your work easy for you. Very cool. You can also use it to, let's say, create a virtual environment, which is, let's say I have one here. So we can create one for VNV. I want to run or create a VNV. There's something that is done always. So we can just go back a day and go with Python 3-m VNV right? So if I run it again, so I can just go with VNV, and as you can see, it is creating a VNV, as you can see here. So this is a very useful function. So these are some of the things you can do with Makefile. It makes your work easy. And then you can just go to GitHub. If you go to GitHub and then you search for it, GitHub. On GitHub itself, there are a lot of people that have built programs with Makefile, and you can check it out to learn more of how to do that, right? This is used in C++ and C, and it's also used in Go, but you can also use it in Python or any other stuff. So to recap, we have seen how to create our target, right, which is what it's going to be called, our prerequisite, which you have not done, but you can do it later on, and then the recipe, right, which is a command you're running. There's also one thing you can also do, apart from the all, which when you run the make, it's going to run all of them. You can also specify a phony target, right, which is something we can learn later on. So that is the basic overview. So thank you for watching this tutorial. In case you have any question or contribution, you can put that in the comment section below and let me know how this one went. Hope you learned something. One more thing, if you have multiple Makefiles, you can specify the particular type of Makefile you want to run, right? You can specify it by going with this. So we have Makefile 1. If I have another Makefile here, so let's copy this, or let's say I'll paste. No, I want to copy whatever is here, right? Oh, and I want to create another one. So let's say Makefile 2, right? You can also specify which one to use, right? So this one, I'm going to take off all of this and this, all of this, together with the condition and everything. I'm going to create one for, let's say, something simple like deploy, right? And then I can just echo deploy, right? In case I want to use this one and not this one, because by default, if I go with make, it's using the first one, but in case I want to specify this one, I can specify it like make-f, specifying the file you want to use, and then make file 2, so that there is no need to say no rules to make target, because these ones are not there, we did not define them. But if I go and I define this one as deploy, right, you can see that it's using this file, not the other one, right? So now if I go back again, save, and then I run, so now deploy. So you can specify the particular type of Makefile you want to use using the -f option, right? If you don't specify, it looks at your directory and picks the file with Makefile, the name there. But if you want to specify the file, just go with -f, then the particular Makefile. That is one way. There's also another way of including other Makefiles. So in case I want to include a Makefile, this Makefile inside this, I can also include it here with the include. I think it's called include. Then you can include a particular Makefile, which is something you will learn later on. So yeah, so let's put this one into a different folder, and let's call it as, let's say, docs, right? Documentation, or you can give it any name, but let's call it as docs. And I'm going to put the make 2 here. Yeah, let's move it. Now in case I want to reference, let's make 2, right? I'll just go back include, then I can just get the current working directory, which mostly is this option here. So in case I want to get a current working directory, I just go with pwd. The same command can be run here in the format of a bash. So pwd, right? And then I'm going to get the docs, right? Then there is a Makefile there too, which is this particular Makefile, right? That's what you're using, and now it's going to be included in what you have. So let's save it, and let's make sure that we don't have an all here. Let's take off this all so that we don't conflict with the alls. So we are including a Makefile from a different place, right there. And then if I run it again, so make, so that it's working overriding target for help because the target was twice. There's target here also. There is one for the help here, but we want to take that one out. Then let's run it again. And now everything is working perfectly well. I can also define the other one which we had here, deploy. And if I run it, you can see that deploy is also the deploying. So it's able to pick the other Makefile and include it into your main Makefile, right? And the final stuff is that if I go with the help, only this one is shown, not the other one, because of how it is. Because this command, Makefile list, there is a way of calling another Makefile within a Makefile, right? Using the make command within it, right? Which is, in that case, it's going to be in case I want to call another Makefile within a Makefile. So let's say I want to call, call make. This is going to be like my command, make, right? And I'm going to specify that particular file that I want to call, right? I want to, let's say, call another Makefile there, which is -f. Then we have docs Makefile2, right? Let's hope it works. I've not tried it. So let's say call a Makefile within a Makefile. I hope it doesn't fail. Let's go back again. Help. So we have my call make is showing here. Now let's see if it works. So make, call make, and it's failing, right? Because it's saying entering directory this, deploying. It was able to run it, right? And it's leaving. So it entered it, went to this directory to call this make. So it called make on this directory. That's why it's entering a directory this, and it executed a task, and then it went, right? So you can actually call a Makefile within a Makefile using this make. So that is something very cool you can do with make, right? You have seen a lot. I hope you have learned a lot. Of course, the power is in your hand. You can do a lot of things with this, but there are more things you can also do with this. Thank you for watching. So to recap, the most important thing is you need a Makefile, a file called Makefile, and then you also need to specify the target and then the recipe. You have seen that you can define the variables with this option here. You can include, and then you can also use conditions. There's also something called Phony, right? So the Phony is that in case you have, let's say, in case I have another function that is having the same name as here, docs, and I want to use that one, then I'll just go with docs, right? So that it doesn't override it. So thank you for watching. Adios. Bye. Paka paka. Tschüss.